Om Namah Shivaya. Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavabhai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, as we were talking in the last class, the contribution of a guru as a representative of Ishvara, as the revealer of the Vidya, Brahma Vidya, revealer, not creator, but just a revealer, is consistent with the word Upanishad. So the contribution of Guru follows the definition of the word Upanishad. So the word Upanishad is a very significant one, and like in all Vedantic terms, is meaningful. So this is what is called Vyutpatti Artha. So every word has two different meanings. One is Vyutpatti and one is Rudhi. So I don't know how the word Rudhi came about. I don't know what is the Vyutpatti of Rudhi. But what Rudhi means, as I understand, is a name by convention. And exactly most of the words in the languages are by convention. As it is, you just decide, you have to have some words, but it is just done in convention. It's really fascinating how words are used in shaping your thoughts. So our youngest granddaughter, who was just born 15 months ago, and now I'm just observing her, how she is growing in terms of dealing with the world. And so, for example, right now, she just had a meeting with their pediatrician, my son and the daughter-in-law. So they always give us reports on what was done. So one of the things that the pediatrician asked them is, how many words can she speak? And so they kind of measure, And so my son and daughter-in-law had already looked into that, and they think she knows about 13 words. Okay, and her clearest one is baby. So when she knows, in fact, there was a packet of biscuit that had a baby on it, and so she said baby. The rest of the words she doesn't, mama, she says very clearly. And I'm very happy that my name to her is Papa. And she is now beginning to say Papa. But those are the 13 words that she has. But here's the point I was really conveying. Okay? If you follow her and look at her, and I've spent some time with her now, because my wife and I also babysit her sometimes when they go out for dinner. Even at that age, they've given it that privilege. I mean, her age, not our age, but her age. She has many more thoughts than the words. So she would say, that means I want that. So she doesn't have the word for that, but she can convey her thoughts. And so it's fascinating. I don't know how many, but I think she must have at least 50 to 100 thoughts that, this is good, this is not good, I don't want. Sometimes it just, one of our frustrations is, and she's, I don't want to talk too much time about just my granddaughter, but one of the things she's very firm about what she doesn't want. You try to tell her that and she says, So he says, my God, at least try this thing. No. I don't even want to try it. So through actions and so on, a lot of the words are not there yet. So slowly what will happen is that words would be coupled to her thoughts. You see, right now her thoughts are ahead of the words, but then she will catch up, and what needs to be done is through Rudi Artha. Rudi Artha means that milk, mother, father. Even the word mother and father are Rudi Artha. And certainly light and this, that, etc. is all Rudi Artha. But in Sanskrit, even there is hardly any Rudi Arthas at all. And if there are, sometimes it has a dual use. Like for example, Rama. So the word Rama is Rudi Artha generally, because you say Rama, you say Dasharatha's son, as who Rama is. And so it has a historical significance, it has some kind of a link with that, Sita's husband, etc., the killer of Ravana, all of those kinds of things are Rudi Artha. The Vyutpatti Artha is from the word, from the dhatu ram. And maybe this, this alcohol called rum, they have derived it from our rum, because the end result is the same. It's enjoyment. It's enjoyment, really. So rum means, this is the thing, rum really means the sukham of the Atma, the peace of the Atma. And the peace of the Atma means, it's just an interesting thing, a very important thing. It does not have a cause, causeless peace, causeless pleasure, fun, peace. Because sometimes, when you, supposing you are, you're hungry or something like this, so then the food becomes a cause for your peace. But here, Rama and Ram is causeless peace which is yours. You just have to invoke it with the right attitudes and actions and so on and so forth. So this is the Vyutpatti Artha of Rama, the one who resides in you as your own Ananda. Same thing with Krishna. And so the Vyutpatti Artha is a very important part of it. So the word Upanishad, the Vyutpatti Artha Upanishad, has the following meanings. And you already know this, so I don't want to spend so much time on it. So I already said that the two prefixes are simply like adjectives. Prefixes mean the adjectives. They are not the main. The main one is the dhatu sad, which is shad. There comes Upanishad. Has three different aspects of it. One is called One is called Visharanam. The second one is called Gatihi. And the third one is called Avasadhanam. These are the three meanings of the word Sat. What are they? Very briefly. So, Gatihi means it makes you reach. I'm out of sequence, or all three of them, but for a purpose. Gati means it allows you to reach where you want to be. This is the meaning of the word Upanishad. Okay? Avasadhanam and Visharanam are related. All three of them are related, but Avasadhanam and Visharanam are related. The meaning of Visharanam is what is the main thing about the Guru. And so, remember we talked about the contribution of the Guru? And the contribution of the Guru is that संसार का मज़ा खराब कर देता है, किरकिरा कर देता है. It spoils the very fun of your pleasure of life. That's why it takes it away from you. You have a certain fun in living, in transacting, in loving this, that, or the other. You will see it won't be as much fun after you learn Vedanta. This is how this is very strange. That how can a guru help you by taking things away? At least I was enjoying it, and now you've even taken that enjoyment away from me. What kind of a person are you that I should call my guru? You're taking things away from me. So the Vedanta says, I'm sorry, but this has to be done. It really has to be done. You know, it's kind of like a 4-year-old who has discovered the pleasure of playing marbles. And you're just playing marbles and you're just exchanging. I remember you used to play marbles and you have a collection of your favorite marbles and so on and so forth. And you're having fun. Anytime you have to take a... But the father and mother finally says, enough of marble playing. You've already done it for 1 hour, this is ridiculous. Go back and do study. And so the person starts crying and says, I was having fun. And why are you taking this way? Just do it, okay? Don't do it. Just wash your hands and come and you have to study, you have to do this. This is exactly what a guru has to do. I'm having fun in my life and you're telling me, please look at the bad things in samsara, just go away, vairagya. And so this is called Visharanam. Visharanam is a very interesting word. I remember when Swami Dayananji first started to unwind the meaning of it, for unfold, that was the word, unfold. It really became very useful for me. What he said was, so the English translation of the word Visharanam, very good translation, is loosening. L-O-O, not losing, but loosening. So this is a very, very important thing to see. So they say that supposing you are an archaeologist and you are a lead archaeologist with a team of students. So this is exactly how that is done. You go to a place and you see whether there are any remnants of an old, civilization here. Are there any houses and so on? It all looks like dirt. So this is exactly what happens. That over a time, the cities are abandoned and all the dust comes in and so on, cakes itself and looks like there is nothing there. But then people say, there was a town here, we better look into that. So the archaeologists in the colleges and so on and so forth, they have to start digging and so on and so forth. And pretty soon, they have their own methodology. They're looking for some kind of a vessel or something, or a wall or portions of it that looks different from the other dirt. And so this is exactly what this is. Swami, I'm just telling you Swami Dayananji's explanation of this. So pretty soon you have one student who's digging and so on, and he says, "Sir, I think I found something. I find a kind of like a metal box here." They say, "Metal box? How?" So he taps on it, and sure enough, it has metal has a different sound to it, and says, "Yes, I think it is," but it is now so caked in that it doesn't look like it's a separate vessel. It is all part of it. So what they have to do, they have to loosen the dirt around it and dig and find out if it is a separate piece altogether. That loosening process is what is Visharanam. So in application to our lives, we have a is almost like archaeological work that you have to do. We have an interesting relationship with the world. The world looks very real to me. Everything, this is all pakka. You tell them, this is all mithya and so on and so forth. They says, I don't know about what you're talking about, mithya, so on. This is it. There's a hall, I'm sitting here, I'm hungry, and so on and so forth. What mithya are you talking about? So, the job of the Guru is to loosen the hold of the world to you. This is called Visharanam. So what the Upanishad does and what the Guru does in explaining the Upanishad to you very clearly is to loosen. And loosen, how loosen? By pointing out an alternative reality. This is not the only thing there is. There is something more to it. And so at least you should begin the process of investigating the alternative reality. And so this is the first step that the Upanishad does. And it comes from your own Shraddha, because if you don't have Shraddha, you won't even listen to somebody. But if you do, the Vedas says, I'm going to reveal something very interesting to you. Something remarkable, interesting, important, and crucial actually. In the beginning it looks like it's interesting, then eventually it becomes imperative. So this is the first part of the word Upanishad. Then the second one is avasadhanam. Avasadhanam means it totally destroys it. First it loosens it, and then it, so this is what is called Jivan Mukti. So with all of that we will see later on. But that's, and then by, so this is interesting, I'm just going a little bit more detail. So there are three aspects of the word Upanishad, the Visharanam. So maybe, the best thing is to do the right sequence. Visharanam, Avasadhanam, and Gatihi. And so first thing is to loosen, and that is the contribution of the Guru. We have already talked about that. I think I'll stop at that. The second one is that with your Mananam and Nididhyasanam, you will now destroy it. Destroy the feeling of reality of the world. That will come with some more study and application and sarvakarma sannyasa and so on and so forth. It will happen. Then comes gati. So the gati is not a separate thing. Gati really means like going somewhere, reaching, approaching, acquiring. This is the normal meaning of gati. This is a special meaning of gati because as soon as you do avasadhanam, the gati comes in by itself. Why? Because the gati is not anything separate from you anyway. It is already what you are. So that doesn't need to be reached. What needs to be reached is a wrong conclusion about yourself. This is how Upanishads work, and the Guru's contribution is to take things away from you. And you cannot, and so this is why so now we can close the loop, that the Vedantic way of looking at all the things that are going on and so on and so forth, the terrible things that are going on, is to say, my hope, you see, this is what happens. Whenever you feel badly about school shootings and terrorists and so on, you know what the back end of that thought is? The back end of the thought is, if we can stop these things, we'll have a wonderful society and we would live happily ever after. This is the back end of the thought. You don't express it. But anytime you really are perplexed and you are sad and you are angry at those things and so on and so forth, you will say that, why can't we do gun control? If we have gun control, this country will be wonderful. If we have this will be wonderful. I think this is going to come a little bit later on, but I must bring it here. Swami Maheshananji said that. He says, before partition in India, we were just saying if we could just kick the Britishers out of here, life will become heaven. They are really enslaving us, and we have lost our identity, which is true. But the thinking was that if they can just get them out, life would be wonderful. And even in 1975, now it is 2022, when he was talking about this was in 1975, he said, you know what the reality is? We are worse off than when the Britishers were there. Things were a little bit more organized. There was less corruption. It is chaos. The democracy has just created such problems where there is vote banks and the Muslims and this, that, or the other, and the quality of life has really suffered. Is this what you call progress? It's not. Now the thinking is, Modi ji is going to have come and he's going to just make things absolutely wonderful. All these are false hopes, honestly. Doesn't mean that you don't work towards it, but the feeling that we are going to have Ram Rajya, everything is just going to be wonderful, is absolutely foolish. Things are always going to be bad. They're always going to be a mixture of good and bad. And this is the way it's going to be. And so there is something better than that, which is yourself. And you are not inquiring about it. You're completely oblivious of it, and you're not doing anything about it. Do something about it. So this is the contribution of the Guru. I think we have spent a lot of time on it. Let's move on to the second hand, which is called Diksha. Okay, so the two hands, Bahubhyam Utate Namaha. So one hand is the Guru, and the other one is the Diksha. So in that sense, the Guru is the right hand, and the Diksha is the left hand. So the Diksha is the direction, and the power comes from the words of the Guru as revealed by the Shastra. Okay? So now let's go to the other hand, which is Diksha. What is Diksha? So here we should understand the uniqueness of the human form of existence. Human as contrasted to non-human, which is all trees, insects, animals, and so on. And the humans are a very small part of the whole thing. We look at the number of species of life on this earth. Out of the millions of them, humans are only one of the species. But a very important species, because we have really spent a lot of time in being, quite frankly, frogs and this, that, or the other. By the way, talking of that, I was just walking. Just took a very quick walk on this trail. Very beautiful area, this it is, and so on. And I found these squirrels that look like rats to me. I was thinking, what is this rat doing there? Because the rats are very clever. As soon as they see a human being approaching, they immediately go away. But this squirrel was sitting right there. So I said, this is a very funny looking rat. It had markings on the back. I don't understand how they have squirrels at such small sizes here. In California, our squirrels are this big. They've ruined they have these ground squirrels and so on. They get into the attic. So powerful. We have given up. We have a person who takes care of them full time, honestly. And we are still losing to them. Huge squirrels. Here, these are tiny squirrels that are about 6 inches tall. It's just amazing. Anyway, The human beings are a very small part of the whole species, but a very special part of the species. Now look at the contrast between the life of a non-human and the life of a human. So this is all part of the Diksha. So here's the thing. Ishvara has made non-humans in such a way that they have an instinct of what needs to be done. If there is a bird, if there is a baby bird that is born, the baby bird has an instinct of flapping its wings to fly. No one has to teach them. Instinct means no one has to sit down. The baby, the mother of the baby doesn't say, okay, now, let me tell you what you need to do. Okay? See your left wing? Yep. See the right wing? Yeah. We'll raise this once. And don't nod at this automatically. I mean, not simultaneously. No. There is no, it's just an amazing fact to see. All the animals, they have an instinct on what needs to be done from their previous life. They already have that. When you come to humans, things are totally different. Now the baby comes in, other than probably just the instinct of sucking on their mother's breast, there is nothing else that is instinctive. Nothing else. Everything has to be taught. I think there's one other instinct which is there, which is an interesting instinct. If the baby is not comfortable, it cries. And if the baby is comfortable, it just keeps quiet. So that's also a good instinct. Because supposing even that has to be taught. Supposing the baby is very uncomfortable and it is very smiling and so on and so forth. Poor thing is so hungry and is not crying. That's a big problem. He better cry, because how else the mother is going to know that it's the baby? So there is some instinct. Most of it is what is called shiksha. So shiksha means training, education. And this is a very interesting thing, that you can give shiksha in a positive direction or a negative direction. You can become a devata or you can become a rakshasa. All depends on shiksha, what kind of a shiksha that you have to give. So really the whole development of a baby depends on shiksha. Very little instinct, hardly at all. Whereas in the animal kingdom, it's all instinct and no shiksha. See the difference? This is just amazing. Now, having said that, what is Diksha? What is Diksha as being separate from Shiksha? Here is the difference. So for gaining Atma Vidya, you not only need Shiksha, but you need Diksha. So Diksha is a technical word, and what it means is showing the direction. Generally speaking, that's the translation of it would be, showing the direction. And so as you know very well, that when sannyasa is given to people, then sannyasa involves giving diksha. So diksha means a direction of their life has to be changed, and it is formally changed. For us, it also needs to be changed, but doesn't have to be formally changed. because we are part of the family and so on and so forth. Sometimes I kind of look at almost like a comparison between Swami Viditatmananda ji and myself. So we had a very similar experience in our life. Both of us were in our early 20s when we were working as engineers or something. He was in the New York area, I was in San Francisco. And he was a few years senior to me, so we were both there. Then we both met Swami Chinmayanandaji first. And so that is the process of the Diksha. So Diksha means showing the direction. So all of this that we are doing is Diksha because it's saying, give up this world, turn to yourself. Give up looking at Rudra's angry face. Give up looking at the world is like looking at the angry face of Rudra. And looking at yourself and the benign face of Rudra is changing the direction with Diksha. So all of us are doing this. But in the case of Swami Viditatmananda ji, his Diksha became very formal because he was single. And at that point he was said that, it was interesting, a lot of the people that graduated from the similar 2.5-year courses that we took, Pami and I took in 1979 to 82, we were one of the few people who were married already, but there were a lot of people who were still single. And so when they finished the course, they would go and visit with Swamiji, and Swamiji will say, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? So we have another person, Mr. Ramaswamy, and wonderful person, very full teacher. So it was interesting, the comparison between Ramaswamy and Swami Viditatmananda, whose name was different at that time. So they both had interviews with Swamiji. And so Swamiji asked them, well, what would you like to do with your life? So Ramaswamy said he has a PhD in biochemistry or something, some kind of a field. He says, Swamiji, I want to work some more as a scientist. And so that's what I want to do. So Swamiji said, okay, fine, hey, that's whatever you want to do. Swami Viditatmananda said, I have no idea what I want to do. What do you think I should do? So Swamiji said, okay, we have very little formal Vedantic presence in Gujarat, and I'd like you to go to Ahmedabad and then just be a brahmachari for a while. And then he gave him the formal Diksha to become a Swami. And so in Ramaswamy's case it was a choice. In my case there was no choice. Because I had already promised Pami at that time that if you sacrifice 2.5 years, then I will stay as a householder for the rest of my life. So I've already given that promise. And so even though I have Diksha, but it is not formalized as it is in the case of Swamiji. And so the Diksha is the direction that you have to give to people. So direction means, very interesting, direction means you tell people you go this way, and even if you feel lost, don't give up going in that direction, because that's where the end is. So this is not, and so you can generalize the problems. See, Shiksha would be where every problem is specifically looked at. That is Shiksha. But Diksha is the general feeling, general education, that the whole world itself is a wrong direction to go to. So keep going in your own direction. And what if you don't feel comfortable? Keep going, because you will feel comfortable after a while. So this is the directional shiksha is called Diksha. So that the second arm of Rudra is the two Bahubhyam. Bahubhyam means a dual form. The first one is the Guru, and the second one is the Diksha. Let's see if I have something that I'm missing that I should talk about. Yes. I am missing something that I didn't do. Okay, here's what it is. This is the example of having gone through this notes, and so I can quickly review it. What is necessary for receiving Diksha is your willingness to follow it. Where do you want to go? This is called Diksha. And so, there is a verse here. Yes. I don't know where this is. I just make a quick note of it. There is a verse in one of the Upanishads which says, Vratena Diksham Apnoti. Vratena Diksham Apnoti. So it encaptures the same thing, which says you are able to get Diksha by your choice. Swami Maheshanji gives a very interesting example to this. He says, supposing you go to a railway station and you want to buy a ticket. So the person said, yes. He says, I want to buy a ticket. I want to do something. This is what happens in your life. I want to do something. So there it is symbolized by going to a railway station ticket master and saying, I want to go somewhere. And says, yes, okay. Where do you want to go? I don't know. I don't know. But just give me a ticket. He says, sir, there's a lot of people standing behind you. Can you tell me where you are? He says, no, I really don't know. So he says, please set aside. Just step aside. Because you are either drunk or something. I don't understand this. You cannot go there without telling people, here's what I want to do. This is exactly what vratam is. In fact, you know what? There was a verse that I started to talk about, and I didn't finish the quotation, but I had written it down, so let me do this. This is from Kathopanishad. Kathopanishad 1, 2, 23. First chapter, second section, third verse. He says, I am Atma. So this is an important one. Just look at this. I am Atma. No. Nayam Atma. Na ayam Atma. Pravachanena labhyaha. Na medhaya. Na bahuna shrutena. Yam vaishe vrinute ten labhyaha. Tasya esha atma vivrunute tanugum swam. This is the verse. And I remember learning about this verse, or hearing about it. I wouldn't say learning. Learning came much later. But I remember hearing about this verse from Swami Dayanandji, probably when we were doing Kathopanishad in the PRC course in 1979, where I didn't quite get this. So let me tell you what it says and why I didn't get it, and what is it that I didn't get. So it says, the meaning of this is, Na ayam Atma, means an understanding of yourself, na pravachanena labhyaha. You cannot get it by talking about it and discussing it. Okay? Na medhaya. Medhaya means memorizing it. Like you memorize ShriRudram. Many of us that have been chanting ShriRudram for a long time, now we can set aside the book and we feel very good. Now we can chant the entire Rudram for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It's called Medha Shakti. So you're really recalling, it's in your own mind. It's you're not really reading it from this. It's called Medha Shakti. So he says Atma cannot be done through Medha Shakti. Na Medhaya. And then it's interesting. Na bahuna shrutena. Bahuna shruten means not by reading a lot of shrutis, not a lot of Upanishads, not attending a lot of classes. So this was really a kind of a shock to me. What? I am trying to attend as many classes as possible, and you're saying at the end of that I will not get anything? Upanishad says that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Na ayam atma pravachanena labhya na medhaya na bahuta shrutena. Then what? What am I supposed to do? How is it? He says, yam eva, indeed, esha vrinute tena labhya. He says, when you make up your mind, vrinute, varanam, vrinu means to choose. This is what I want to do. Until that is done, tasya esha atma vivrunute tanugum swam. This is a beautiful verse. Just absolutely wonderful. And something that I can experience. Really, there came a time in my life where I said, so let me tell you what is not good. And then I'll go, there's the first verse, the first line of the verse, and then the second line. The first line of the verse says, Na ayam atma pravajena labhya na medhaya na bahushrutena. So here's what we think. Somehow we think that if we keep on attending classes, you're going to Swami TV's classes, Swami V's classes, and Paramathananda's lectures, and so on and so forth, then I will be okay. Then I think one day I'm going to be an expert, and you really will be an expert. In fact, this is what it says. There are two words used. One is called Shrotriya, and the other one is called Brahmanishta. There are so many Shrotriyas you cannot believe. One of our friends, Swami Gyananandaji, who's here, you may know him. So Pami and I, when we went to the PRC course, he was a student called Ashok Chabra. And so, we've tracked each other's careers and so on. In fact, I'm going to see him today after lunch just to say hello to him. And he was telling me that about 20-25 years ago, he decided to go to Varanasi to study under some Pandit. And by that time, he had already been studying with Swami Padmananji for a couple of decades and was quite well versed in, he was a jnani like us and so on. But then when he went to Varanasi, he says, I got the shock of my life. People there knew much more about it than I did. They had studied so many Vedas, Agamas, and Sanskritam. And he says, I felt kind of like, I remember his words to me. He told this to me a couple of decades ago, I think. In fact, he says, I recently was in Varanasi and I felt very bad. So there is a lot of Shrotriyas. There's no dearth of it. It's exactly like this. If I keep on taking classes, Tikon classes, nothing will happen. You will become a very scholar. Scholarship doesn't mean anything. It is not until you close your eyes and say, what does it mean for me? My life, my attitudes, and this is what I want to do. So it is all sitting there waiting for the last door to open. Remember we talked about Ishvara Kripa, Shastra Kripa, Guru Kripa. Atma Kripa is the last door. You have to, and that happened to me somewhere in my life, and things finally began to really make sense to me. I must see this very well. Then it says, Yam eva esha vrinute, the one who chooses, sincerely chooses, exactly the same imagery as this boy that we talked about, that if he was being given instructions by his parents, give it up, this is a bad life, and then all these gang members were saying, come on, what giving up, this is fun. What parents are just old-fashioned and so on. So he had not chosen what he wants to do. But at some point in time he says, you know what? This is the direction. I want to give up one or the. This is called and that has to come from yourself. Ishvara is waiting. And that also requires the blessings of Ishvara. And the blessings of Ishvara will only come when you have resolved that this is what I want to do. And when you do that, then you're ready for Diksha. So this is what it means. Vratena hi Diksham apnoti. So Diksha only becomes effective if you choose. Very important verse. So when I first, just to close the loop on what I had started, that when I first heard about this was a confusing one to me. Because I didn't know what it really means. Because I thought that just attending classes and so on, that should do it for me. But it didn't. It didn't. I still had a feeling of incompleteness. And that feeling of incompleteness is going slowly. It is going, definitely going, but only after I became more desperate inwards, without telling anyone. No one knows anything. This is an internal kind of a thing. I just have to figure out this is what I want to do. Certainly priorities do change, no doubt about it. Because I also now have a lot of friends and so on and so forth, but the closeness of friends, keeping up with them and so on and so forth is not there. Because I have a direction that I want to do, and this is what I want to do, and that's an internal. And now I'm beginning to feel for the last several years and a more discovery of what the Ananda of the Atma is. And so this is the culmination of the Diksha, or even the start of the Diksha. Diksha won't make any sense. When you become a full-time Swami, you took on the ochre clothes and so on, it's very possible that it is premature. Premature. And this is what is called Vividisha Sannyasi and Vidvat Sannyasi. You know, the sannyasis are of one of two types. One is called Vividisha Sannyasi, one is called Vidvat Sannyasi. So Vividisha Sannyasi is also like us. They are also not quite there yet. But they have committed themselves and they have taken a very important decision to completely give up their old identity and start on this. But that doesn't mean that they have reached yet. So all of us are trying for the same, whether you are a grihastha or something, or a sannyasi. Then comes Vidvat sannyasi, whose sannyasa has become pakka. And that comes from when you see a teacher, and doesn't have to be a teacher, by the way. They can just take sannyasa and just be with themselves. But if they teach, you will see it in their personality. The most important thing is daya, kindness. They will not be hard personalities. They will be very effusive, giving in to whatever happens, it's okay. So this daya thing is going to come a little bit more detailed, so I won't spend much time on it. Now I think I can just close the books on the first mantra. So we have now done Manyu, we have done Ishu, and we have done Bahu Bhyam. Okay, so that is done. I think I still have a few more minutes to go, so let us start on the second mantra. But before that, I might as well just give you a kind of a quick update on things. So, in fact, this is, I haven't even shared this with my own wife yet. So I just saw Swami Viditatmananda yesterday, and just kind of discussing the class that we had and so on. And he said, I want you to do this every year. So I said, Swamiji, I don't know if I can. I'm getting old and so on. So he says, that's a different thing. But he says that, and I'm hoping that your feedback is positive. If you don't feel I'm qualified, then you better let somebody know so we can stop this. But if you think I'm still okay, then I'm thinking, and I just discussed that with Shuddhatmaji. And this is why I'm sharing this with you at this point. I was thinking originally, before I met Swamiji, that we will just have a quick review of ShriRudram and be done with it. Now I'm thinking, if this is what Swamiji wants me to do, then I will come back next year and complete ShriRudram and not complete it this year. Because we were not going to complete it this year anyway, because we were getting so fast and so on. But I think we'll keep this pace, and then we'll have a part 2 for next year. And what would be nice is if you can tell others, if you like what you heard and the style and so on. So next year hopefully we'll have more people that are aware of the need for a meaning of ShriRudram. Because we have thousands of wonderful people that chant ShriRudram. Prakash was telling me just the other day, and Prakash, this is really meant for you. He was saying that I chant Rudram with 40 people. I want all the 39 other people to be here next time. And I'm going to hold you to this. So no, really, I think that what would be nice is if we begin to, and it'll be the same dates, the same time in June, okay? Maybe just, Saturday or whatever. But it'll be nice if we can let people know that in the presence of Dakshinamurti, in this atmosphere, in the atmosphere of the whole ashram, this would be a suitable way to study the meaning of ShriRudram, and we have to tell people about it, otherwise how are they going to find out? So I need all of your help to do so, and so I just made that decision 2 hours ago. After talking to Swamiji and so on, I haven't even told Pami about this. I was thinking that if I come back, I will take a different text. And the one I had in mind was the last 5 chapters of Panchadashi, which is Ananda. And Amit knows that I have been wanting to do that. So I was thinking I will do that. But now I am thinking that we need to expose the meaning of ShriRudram to more people, and including you, will finish the second part of that. We'll complete it, and it's a quick revision of the first part, and then the second part. So that's my thinking at this point. Okay. So anyway, what the reason I brought that up is because I was getting a little worried that we're going so slow that we won't even finish, the whole thing. So be it. We'll do as much as we can, and then hopefully we will complete it next year. Okay? So with that, let me at least talk about the second mantra, and then we will start to... So the second mantra, let me do the swaras from here. Ya te rudra shiva tanush aghora papakashini tayanas tanuva tanva shantamaya girishanta vichakashi. I made one mistake. So this is the thing. In Swami Maheswaranji's, he's combined both 1 and 2 into 1. And so in his book, this is number 2. And Swami Dayanandaji's book is number 3. So it doesn't matter, it's the same one. So it goes, Yate Rudra Shiva Tanura Ghosha, Tanura Ghora Papakashini Tayanas Tanuva Shantamaya Girishanta Vichakashihi. This is the verse. So a very quick translation, and then we will reveal it in more detail. He says, O Rudra, the one who abides in the words of the Vedas, same thing as we did before, may you reveal the self to us through that form of blessing which is non-frightening, it is auspicious, and which reveals my pure self. So there is a lot in it. So Yate Rudra. If you want, we can just do a quick word. Yeah, let's do that at least. So this third one is on page, 29? Okay. Yeah, 28, 29. So, Ya, which Rudra, so this is a Sambodhanam, O Rudra, Shiva Tanuhu. So, this is a feminine word. So, from Shiva it becomes Shiva. Shiva Tanuhu. So, your auspicious body. My look to you, which is protective of me. So, turn your face around and let me look at your auspicious one. We'll go into this in more detail. Which is aghora, which is non-frightening. And apapakashini, that which reveals the blemishless self. Again, just some words that have to be explained. And by that tanu, by that body, which is Shantamaya, which is in the form of blessing to me, He Girishanta Abhichakashihi, reveal the truth for us. So what this is leading up to it, which will be done later on, is that may I be able to see that form of you which is that form of me. You see, there's an apparent duality, but there is actually singularity, that by the auspicious nature of which I will calm down. At this point I am not calming down because my mind is running all over the place. But by the vision of the self, as we saw in the meditation, for example, that vision of the self which is non-changing. It is not wave-oriented, it is the ocean-oriented. By those kinds of words, I know that I would feel good, and please reveal that to me. So this is the start of the education and so on. So the first two mantras were the Ghora Rupa, directed at the anger, and now it addresses the Aghora Rupa of Rudra. So this we will continue on. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.